Are frogs actually making fun of us? In today's video, we'll take a look at 10 frogs making funny sounds that are really not funny to them. When you think about frogs, you think about jumping, hopping animals that spend most of their time hanging out by water and catching bugs to eat. And you also think of those cute, little, croaking noises they make. But did you know that there's quite a bit more to frog vocalizations than just croaking? It turns out that frogs can make all kinds of weird, funny, strange, and creepy sounds. So in today's video, we're gonna take a look at 10 of the funniest sounding frogs and the reasons behind their strange calls. Number 10. Glass frogs. Okay, so this one might be a little unfair, because technically it's not the glass frogs that are making these crazy sounds. It's the insects trapped inside of them. As you can probably imagine, getting eaten by a frog isn't exactly a pleasant experience for an insect. And when it's happening, they often let out a series of buzzing or clicking sounds as they struggle to escape. Now, it is unclear whether or not the glass frog can actually hear these sounds or if they have any meaning to them. But we do know that glass frogs do seem to listen intently whenever these noises happen. One thing's for sure, though. These tiny, trapped screams are pretty hilarious to us humans. No. 9. The Razorback salamander. This one goes to show that funny-sounding frogs aren't limited to just frogs. Take the Razorback salamander, for example, which has a name that doesn't sound nearly as funny as its voice. Just take a listen to this. Now, despite their funny snorts, these guys are actually pretty scary-looking creatures, with some people even describing them as devil frogs. They're typically around 3 inches long, and they live in the mountains of eastern North America, where they hunt roly-polies and other small invertebrates. They're not actually frogs, though. They belong to a group of amphibians known as salamanders. But I figured they were too weird and funny not to include. 8. The clacking tree frog. If you ever find yourself wandering through the jungles of Southeast Asia, keep your eyes and ears peeled for the distinctive clacking sound of the Asian clacking tree frog. They get their name from the unique way they communicate, by smacking their front feet together. Yeah, no joke. Scientists aren't entirely sure why they do this, but it's thought that these guys only smack their feet together when they feel threatened. When a predator approaches, they clack back and forth really quickly, which startles the would-be attacker and gives the frog time to hop away. Number 7. The green and black poison dart frog. You might be surprised to learn that poison dart frogs come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But this guy, the green and black poison dart frog, is perhaps one of the most vibrantly colored of them all. These little guys are known for their bright green backs and jet black undersides, and they're also known for their incredibly loud calls, which they use to attract mates. They can call in a number of different ways, including croaking, whistling, and even trilling. But perhaps their funniest sounding call is the cackle. Listen to this. Now, scientists aren't entirely sure why they call in this way, but they suspect it has something to do with defending territory and attracting mates. Number 6. The wailing tree frog. It's not very surprising that many frogs use their voices to attract mates and defend territory. After all, being able to clearly communicate over long distances is super important. That's why you've probably heard plenty of frogs just calling back and forth to each other, especially during mating season. But some frogs, like the wailing tree frog, take things a step further. Unlike many other frogs that call while sitting on the ground, the wailing tree frog climbs up into trees and uses the branches as natural resonators to amplify their calls. And unlike many other frogs that call to attract mates, this guy calls to stake his claim to a particular area. You see, the wailing tree frog spends its days hunting other frogs and toads, and he lets everyone know who's boss. Number 5. Surinam toad. Toads are often considered ugly. Slimy, bumpy creatures with dry, warty skin and protruding eyes. And while some toads are pretty good at camouflaging themselves, others like the Surinam toad are pretty easy to spot. Thanks to their light gray or golden brown coloring, these toads kind of look like giant, lazy smiles. But perhaps even weirder than their looks is the way they make their funny faces. As you may have noticed, the Surinam toad's mouth isn't on the front of its face. Instead, it's on the top. Now, don't ask me how they do it, but somehow these guys are able to suck their bottoms out to form these hilarious grimaces. And they do it for two reasons. First, it helps them camouflage themselves by making them less noticeable from above and below. Second, it deters predators since it makes them look like they have a serious case of the hiccups. Number 4, Darwin's frog. You know, for a while there, it seemed like all we were talking about were frogs that sounded funny and weren't actually trying to be funny. But in the case of Darwin's frog, it's actually the opposite. See, Darwin's frog is famous for being one of the funniest sounding frogs in the world, but they do it intentionally. It's not uncommon for these guys to mimic the calls of other frogs and insects, like the snore of the common midwife toad or the chirp of the white-throated ground cricket. They can even imitate the calls of birds like the rock wren. But why they do this is a mystery. Some believe that they do it to confuse predators, while others believe that they do it to lure their prey. Number 3, Drakensberg tree frog. The Drakensberg tree frog is a medium-sized frog found in South Africa. They're typically around 2 inches long and are usually found near fast-flowing streams and rivers. As their name suggests, these guys are great at climbing trees thanks to their large toe pads, sticky fingers, and webbing between their toes. But perhaps even more fascinating than their looks is the way they make noise. You see, while most frogs make noise by forcing air over their vocal cords, the Drake's tree frog makes noise by sucking air into their vocal sac, much like a snake. And this creates a really unusual sound, kind of like a squeaking balloon. Number 2, the bell frog. Most of the frogs we've talked about so far can only make a single basic sound. But not the bell frog. The bell frog is a large frog native to Australia. They're typically around 4 inches long and have a distinctive bell-shaped call. But what makes them so special is their ability to combine different notes to create complex songs. During mating season, male bell frogs will call for up to 12 hours a day, and they can produce songs with up to 20 different notes. And it's not uncommon for them to sing duets or even in groups. Number 1, the laughing kookaburra frog. So far, we've heard frogs that clack, snort, wail, cackle, and even laugh. But none of them compare to the sheer hilarity of the laughing kookaburra frog. As you may have guessed, these guys are named after the kookaburras, the noisy Australian birds that are famous for their loud, distinctive laughter. And while they're not actually laughing when they do it, the sound they make is pretty similar. The laughing kookaburra frog is found in the coastal regions of northeastern Australia, where it lives in leaf litter and hunts for insects and small worms. So there you have it, 10 frogs that make funny sounds. Now I want to ask you, which frog was the funniest to you? And if you could make a frog sound, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to stay tuned for more animal videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.